All right, we are here. I am with Curbside Jones, and this is the 7th episode of On That Note. We're out here in Buda, Texas? Buda, Texas. I don't even know, are we south of Austin, west of Austin?
Yeah, it's like south as you can get.
Okay. And he's a really talented hip-hop artist, along with being a cool lyricist. He also does all of his own mixing, producing, sampling, all that stuff. And I wanted to break down one of his songs that I found on the internet that I really liked called One for Simo. The song starts off with that like really interesting vocal line with kind of those strange jumps.
It's really real. 1 2 1 2. Hey yo, pick up the phone, man. Yo, a generation is.
Where is that sampled from? Where'd you find that, and why? How did you choose it?
I don't remember the name of the group. I can pull it up whenever the computer boots up. But I actually made that beat for a beat tape.
Okay.
And I made it on the beat tape. I made it with the artist MF Doom in mind.
Okay.
So I made it, and then I ended up taking a Common acapella and taking a Doom acapella and putting it together. And then it sounded really good, and I was like, man, I want to rap on this. So I ended up rapping on it and putting it on there, and I was like, well, it's my own beat, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I chose that one was because the inspiration behind the Voicemail Blues, the whole entire EP, was Madlib.
Okay.
So it's finding something that sounded Madlib-esque, so it's like jazzy. It had a lot of different parts where I could string it together to make it sound like a loop when it was just a bunch of different parts.
Yeah. And then is that bass line that's happening underneath that? Is that from the same song?
Yes, filter.
Okay.
Yeah, I filtered the bass line on that. I didn't add any kicks or anything. However, when it transitions into the second part where Dexter Fizz starts rapping, that's from a completely different song. Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? Okay.
They actually spliced that and then another song in between. So when the keys come in, that's a sample from a different song.
Okay. We'll get to that because that outro is really interesting. And I like that, the transition you're specifically mentioning there. And what is the appeal? I mean, what was like the reason behind like I really wanted that type of vibe for this song? Was it like a thematic thing, or was it just like I like this style, so I'm gonna try and
It was both.
It was both. Okay.
Yeah, because Voicemail Blues is the whole Milk Tea Chronicles was inspired by Adventure Time.
Okay.
And while making it, I wanted the music to reflect Adventure Time. I wanted it to sound bright when you need to sound bright, have the dark tones when you need to have the dark tones, but still have enough energy and stuff to keep people interested. So a lot of my ideas came from like, oh, well, Adventure Time has this catchy part here, or it has this, or it has this really random whatever here. Let me try to incorporate that in the music as well.
Nice. I mean, I definitely get the Adventure Time vibe from it too. Like Simo as in like a BMO reference kind of thing there.
Yeah.
And that was great. I listened to the soloed vocal sample that you also had on your Bandcamp.
Okay.
And there's so many vocal layers and vocal effects. And so I'm curious how you go about arranging those and deciding where to double, or I'm assuming there's more than even double tracks on there. And there's some of them are just drenched in reverb. Some of them are affected to sound kind of like a voice through a phone. Like how do you go about arranging the vocals in that way?
So with that, it's kind of like when I record, it's usually I have my main vocal track, and then after my main vocal track, I'll do 3 sets of ad-libs. So I'll have one pan to the left, one pan to the right, and then I'll have one dead center. Okay. And the one that's dead center is the one that I'll put the effects on. Okay. So it doesn't like overpower the main vocal, because I can always control, the levels. Yeah. And then as far as the like choosing how much reverb, how much this and that just goes with pretty much just what I want for the track. Okay. So the mood of the track. Do I want this one part to like stand out the most to listeners, or do I just want it to be subtle, or do I want my main vocal to have that extra reverb, and then just the ad-libs kind of just be there to take up the space.
Okay.
So that's something that I've been experimenting with in engineering, is taking up this, how to take up space without making it sound too crowded.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear like all the layers and stuff like that, that's what that is. I tend to record one time, record it all. I won't listen to the song for about a week or two. I'll come back, I'll play it, and then I'm like, all right, I should add this one piece here. Or you know what, this doesn't even make sense. Let me take out this because it's adding too much to this one area that I want people to focus on just this one main part. So it's a lot of coming back, subtracting, or coming back and adding.
Okay, awesome. And I mean, I think you did a really good job of like it there's a lot of elements, but it doesn't feel like it gets cluttered.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just feels like it's impactful,
Mm-hmm.
the word I would use. So that's really cool that's the process that you go through to achieve that. And I think it was definitely really effective. And then lyrically, there's some moments that are great. I think my favorite one, and that one, it was really significant, I thought, was the if home is where the heart is. Then we went from bandos to mansions, and there's still room for expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that come from? And like, I mean, it's very poetic, and while still being like kind of braggadocious.
Mm-hmm.
And like, how did that come about?
So that came about because me and my friends always talk about Austin hip hop. We always talk about the idea of being a hometown hero versus being international, worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's why in the track, I mentioned like, you know, this is bigger than downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say home is where the heart is. We went from bandos to mansions. So it's like Austin artists are saying keep it local, but in the grand scheme of this is all bigger than just downtown Austin. This is bigger than the venues. This is bigger than everything. Like, we're trying to travel. We're trying to see the world. We're trying to see different things. So when I say home is where the heart is, like, you know, that could be anywhere. And me, like, being, you know, military child, I've traveled around a lot. So I've seen a lot of different places. I've lived in a lot of different places. So my home is everywhere. So, and it also is like a mental state as well. So if you're always shrouded in negativity, if you're always thinking about the worst possible outcome, then yeah, you're in that you're in that bando, you're in that trap house. Like, you're not gonna get out of that. Like, if you always have a hood mentality, that's just where you're gonna be. So we went, like, me personally, going from having negative state of mind, you know, wanting to just be in one area, like thinking like this is the best that it's gonna get. I was there. But until I started branching out, thinking more positively, trying to see the world, trying to learn more about myself, then we upgraded to the mansion, because now it's like, yo, we got space to breathe, we got space to live. Like, I don't have to, like, I'm comfortable now. So when I say there's room for expansion, it's like, yo, we could take it up a notch. You know what I mean? Like, now that I'm here, I can take my friends here. Or now that I'm here, I can take my family here. And it's just more so like on a mental plane of things.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about, that's a great lyric, and just hearing like a, 3 or 4 minute explanation of like one line, that's one of the things I love about hip hop. Yeah, so then talking about the one other lyric too that caught my eye, and I saw something about, I think it was like on an album description or something, where you were talking about you had thought about not making music or not continuing to make music at some point, and then so the hook on that song, where you say like, I lost my way and I just found my light, is that a reference to that or no?
Yeah, so All Hung Up was inspired by an Adventure Time song called All Gummed Up Inside. About Finn. He found out that Princess Bubblegum didn't like him the way that he liked her. So he was like in this place where he's like curled up on the floor, and he's like had a piece of her hair, and he's like looking at a picture, and like BMO was trying to cheer him up and was like, hey, let's play some video games, whatever, and Jake was trying to help him out, and he started singing, and he was like, the hook was like, I'm all gummed up inside, and I was like, and it just stuck in my head for a long time. And I could relate because it's like, yo, I've been in that place where it's like your friends are trying to cheer you up, everybody's trying to like, you know, contact you, get you out the house, but like you're just in such a rut that you just don't want to.
Yeah.
So All Hung Up is that. It's me at my low point where it's like I wanted to quit music. Like I had like a breakdown over it and stuff because I've been making music for a while and I couldn't find that joy again in making music. So there were times where my friends wanted to hang out. There were times where like I just wasn't returning texts or calls. And so that song was just like apologizing to people and saying like, sorry, I couldn't, you know, come to the phone right now. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just letting people know like this is what's going on with me. And, you know, when I figure out what's going on with myself, then I'll come back and then we can, you know, talk and whatever. And on the other side, One for Simo is me figuring it out. Okay. And me calling everyone else back. So they're two sides of the same coin. One is me at my low, and that's why that one is kind of like more slow pace. It's not as intense, well, not intense, but as like hype as One for Simo. Whereas One for Simo is kind of faster paced. It's more braggadocious. It's more this and that because like I figured it out, and now I'm in a good space, and now I can, you know, call people back, or now I can be with people, and now I can do all these things because there's nothing holding me down.
That's awesome. And then getting to the outro section, great bass line. I love that bass line that you sampled there.
Traveling on the 925 flight TOM 1223 to Rome.
I mean, on a couple of your songs that I was listening to, it seems like they have like very distinct outro sections that could almost be a different song. Why is that some sort of motif that you've kind of like how did you develop that kind of motif?
I just have a short attention span, so I make beats and then I'm like, all right, cool. Like I don't like for my beats to exceed, like the main beat exceed more than 3 minutes. Okay. I don't know why, I just don't like it because then to me it starts to sound repetitive, even though I do add a lot of different elements in my beat to stop it from being repetitive. But I'll sit back and listen to it and I'm like, man, this sounds real good. I want to add this, I want to add this, I want to add this. And then like my wife would be like, well, it sounds good the way it is. Like just leave it. And I'm like, all right, cool, I'll leave it. And then I'll come back to it and be like, but what if I add this one part and then I do this? And then my way of counteracting that is just making the song shorter and then adding another beat. Okay. So that way I don't ruin the first track by adding too much. And then I can just have this separate thing where it's like, all right, I can do all the things I want to do on this one and it won't interfere with that. And it also helps challenge me as far as understanding how to bridge songs together and how to make something that is cohesive. Because you can't have like, I mean you can, but you don't want to have like, you know, a One for Simo type track and then the next track be, well, the track that, you know, joins with it be like a trap beat. And then it just kind of throws off the mood because you're like, wow, we went from here and then we went up here. So trying to figure out how to keep them all in the same lane, but still make it different. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's, you know, part of the attention span and then wanting to challenge myself.
Awesome. And then dealing with the music of that, the outro, it has, I mean, that bass line that you sample for the first half that comes in under like the flight voice talking about Rome, is pretty clearly outlining a C minor 9 chord. And then the first chord that comes in of that like softer piano part is a C minor 9 chord. I don't know how much experience you have with Zero. Okay. So that was just a total fluke, or like just, I mean, obviously not a fluke, but like that was all your ear leading you there?
Yeah, I can open that. That was not
that's wild.
Yeah, that was not intentional.
That's cool, man. That's really cool. Because yeah, it ends on a C note and then that C chord just comes right in.
I think it's more so with ear. Like I tried taking piano classes, which I'm going to get back into eventually. And I played, you know, the instructor some of my music. He's like, yo, let me, because he was like, well, you don't want to be a pianist per se. You just want to make the type of stuff that you sample. Yeah. And I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. Yeah. I don't really care about, you know, trying to be, I'm not going to be doing all that stuff. So he was like, cool, just let me hear what you got. and we can go from there. So yeah, so the part you're talking about is right here. Make sure this is on there.
T-Mo, I'm not home, traveling plans ahead, wrong, had a message for
Yeah, so that was, what was that? Yeah, so that's what that was. It was these right here.
Nice.
Yeah, like I said, I pulled that from a totally different
section.
song. Yeah, that was from a totally different song by a totally different artist.
That's cool. That's wild. And then the conversations with Dexter Fizz, did you like, when you're collaborating with somebody, do you tell them like, here's the vibe of the song, so kind of write something in that vein, or do you just send them like, here's my part, do with it what you will, or is there a conversation about theme at all?
The conversation about theme is definitely there. I'm like, hey man, because he's also been to Japan as well.
Okay.
He's actually, he was one of the inspirations that inspired me even more to want to go, because you know, he got there based like on his music.
Yeah.
So it was like, hey dude, like he was on Twitter and was like, yeah man, I'm going to Japan. And I was like, what? I was like, for real? He's like, yeah, I'm going on tour in Japan. And I was like,
damn.
What? I'm like, how? What? And he's like, yeah man, I've been working with this Japanese producer, and like he got some shows booked, so we're flying out and we're gonna be doing like a couple shows here and there throughout, you know, a couple cities. And I was like, what better person to get on this track besides, you know, someone who has been there before.
Mm-hmm.
So all the stuff I'm talking about, they understand. Like they've traveled, they've seen things, so they know, you know, what mind frame I'm in. So I didn't really have to say too much with him. I was just like, yo man, so the whole point is like calling SEMO, and I explained the whole SEMO thing. I explained the whole, like, you know, this is just the opposite of all hung up. Like I just need you to talk about leaving home and, you know, finding yourself, whatever. So of course he has enough life experience to get on there and do that. I sent him my parts first, but his verse was actually on the first part of the beat.
Okay.
So that second part, all of that, I made around his verse.
Okay.
Yeah, so he recorded on there, and like I said, the whole attention span thing, and I was like, man, it sounds good. I was like, it sounds really good, but I want to compliment his voice a little more.
Okay.
Because his voice is what I would say, it's like a mix of like, it's like if Dom Kennedy was like really good.
That reference is straight over my head.
Okay, but well, Dom Kennedy has like this like laid back, like very relaxed like style.
Mm-hmm.
And it has like that West Coast twang to it,
Okay.
and that's what kind of gives it the appeal. And for whatever reason, Dexter Fizz is from the DMV, but his vocal cadence and his tone sounds like a West Coast tone.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yo, it sounds good on this first part, but what if I give him the second part and build something that has more of like a West Coast vibe, more of like the idea of like what it sounded like in my head was like somebody driving down, you know, the coast in a convertible.
Yeah, with those chords I can hear that.
Yeah, and I was like, it sounds like that, and I want him to be sitting in that lane to add more texture to the track. So yeah, he didn't know that I was gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
I just did it, and then I emailed him, was like, hey bro, what do you think about this? And he was like, yo, that's crazy. And I was like, all right, cool, that's all I need to know. So I kept it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then some of the questions, I got two questions I usually ask to all the people I talk to, and one of them is like, I'm always really fascinated as a music teacher about the process of your music education. I know a lot of like academic musicians, but since you're someone who probably learned a lot by experimenting and building, like what was your education process like, and how did you learn?
So I started out making beats on, of course, on the computer, with a program called Magix Pro. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I have
heard of it, yeah.
Okay, it's terrible. So I had that, and I went out and asked my mom for a microphone. She got me like this $20 microphone from Best Buy. And I started recording with that.
Yeah.
And over, industry instrumentals, like Eminem instrumentals, Jay-Z, all that. So I did that stuff. So there came a time where I want to say it was Late Registration came out. And I heard Late Registration, and I was already a Kanye fan before that. But I heard Late Registration, I was like, yo, I need to make my own beats. Like, I need Kanye to notice me. I need to be on Rockefeller, like it needs to be a thing. So I started trying to learn how to make beats in Magix. Magix was very limited in what you could do, but for me, not knowing anything, it was great. So I ended up getting a MIDI keyboard and started trying to like play things.
And how old were you about this time?
I was 16, I want to say. 16. Yeah, I was 16. I was either 15 or 16. I think Late Registration came out around that time. So I was, messing around with that. It didn't feel right. And then I was like, yo, like, Kanye isn't doing this. Like, he's sampling. And I didn't understand really the concept of sampling because YouTube wasn't at its, where it's at now. So I was like, I don't get it, but I think I just take a song, I cut a piece, I drop it here, and then I put drums under it. And that's all I really knew. So I would go in Magix, I would highlight pieces of the song, and then I would drag it, and then I would do that. And then I ended up getting Sony Acid.
Okay.
Ended up getting that. And then that's when I really started experimenting with sampling, and everything was by hand. So I would go in, highlight, do this, do this, do this, do that. And I got pretty decent at it. I started recording in that as well, got a better mic and everything. And then I was like, something's missing because this doesn't feel like what the professionals do. And I was like, what am I doing that Kanye isn't doing, and what is Kanye doing that I'm not doing? So got on YouTube, and there was a point in time where Jay-Z, when he did the Black album, he did a documentary, and he was in the studio with like Pharrell. He showed clips of him being in the studio with Kanye, showed him clips of being in the studio with Timbaland. And the one prominent thing was everyone had a piece of hardware that they were sampling through. So everyone had an MPC.
Yep.
And I was like, well, how do I get an MPC? So I was getting a magazine called Musicians Friends magazine. I had signed up. I was getting the subscription. And they had a Roland SP606, which I still have to this day.
Ancient technology.
Got dust all over it. But yeah, so I ended up getting this 606. I begged my parents for Christmas. I was like 17. I was like, yo, that's all I want. Just give me this. I'm not gonna ask for anything else. I just want to make music. So they were like, whatever. I mean, as long as it keeps you out of trouble here. Yeah. So they ended up buying me the 606. And at the time, YouTube had progressed a little bit, so I was able to go on and find tutorials on like everything. But most of what I learned was from the manual. Okay. So like reading the manual, understanding like how to go in and because in here you can. Like say if you had a record player, you could connect the record player through your audio inputs, and then you can record straight from your record player in here. Yeah. And then you can go in and do all the chopping in here. Okay. Again, I was limited by technology because this is 512 megabytes. Ooh. Yeah. So I would go in and I would take the drum kits I had that I was using online. I would put some of my favorite drums on here. I would go in and find, like I would have to chop like maybe 15 to 30 seconds of a song that I really like. Take that section, I would put it in here, and then I would go in and I would manually do all the chopping and everything like that. And then I would lay the drums on top of it and everything. But the issue was I didn't know how to get the beats from here to the computer. I was missing the interface. I was missing all that stuff because I was just doing straight, on here. But this taught me how to play samples. It taught me about following BPMs. It taught me about, at the time I didn't know, but it taught me about swing because on here it doesn't quantize. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure there's an option somewhere, but I don't know how to quantize on here. So I was making beats without quantizing, and I would go in and I would manually find the pieces that were a little off, and I would turn them to make them on, turn them, to make them on, turn them, to make them everything on beat to hit.
Interesting.
Because back then, the type of music I was listening to, everything was so cut, like bam, 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 bam. So after this, I stopped using this because I couldn't get the beats off. So I was like, well, this is pointless. And then I started working in FL. And in FL, I had so much more that I felt like I could do. Like I wasn't limited to just, because on here it's only 4 tracks.
Yeah.
So I have my drums and my snare on one track. I have my hi-hat on one track. I'll have my sample on one track. And then if I wanted any other percussion, I have to go on this last track.
Yeah.
And that was all I could do because I couldn't track it out and then bring it back and all that. So FL, I was like, yo, I got infinite possibilities. Yo, I'm about to go ham on this. So that's when I really got into like sampling, and I was doing the same thing I was doing in Magic's, highlighting
and cutting. Yeah.
And then I would place it in the, I would place it here. So I place it all in my sample track. So there would be one sample track, and I would like highlight, and I would just click in all the squares. And then I would have the sample play like that, and then the drums, I would do the same thing. I would click, click, click from my drums. And that's how I produced my first project, was Endless Waltz, Gundam theme. So I did that, and it was good, but it wasn't exact what I wanted. So I kept at it, and then that was my style for a while until I ended up getting the MPD.
Okay.
And the MPD was like coming back home because it was like the 606, except I don't have any limitations
because it communicates.
Because it communicates with FL. I have a Korg Micro Mini XL, so I've been trying to learn that. I have a MIDI keyboard I do things on. So here and there I've been trying to learn how to not sample. But like, you know, I need to be in a classroom setting or like with one-on-one with someone so they can tell me why this is right.
Yeah.
Why this doesn't sound right, because everything I've been doing thus far has just been by ear.
Yeah. The last question I would have is like, what do you feel like music has given you, or like how has it helped you in like a very broad philosophical sense?
Well, being an only child, I spent a lot of time to myself. So
especially
you have
moving a lot. Too.
moving a lot and stuff. So you have a lot of ideas, you have a lot of emotions, you have a lot of things that you want to say, but people aren't around to hear it. And it's like, dang, man, like I want to tell somebody this really cool thing, but nobody's home, so I'll just keep it to myself. So that's one of the reasons why I got into making music, was to express how I was feeling. So once I was able to understand that I could use this as an outlet, there were people who listened to my music that actually were getting things from it. And it didn't start until, it started like maybe like in 2011. There were people that were like, yo man, like this project, like I really feel it, blah blah blah. And then, but now it's to the point where I'll have people like DM me on Twitter, and they'll be like, yo man, I was ready to quit music, I was ready to stop doing all of this, but seeing how hard you're working, knowing, and I know that you get tired. I understand that you wanted to quit yourself, but you're still going and you're still like staying true to who you are. That makes me want to keep going. And then having people like hear like the One for Simos or hear the All Hung Up and be like, yo man, like I was in that same place. Like I wasn't leaving the house. I wasn't hanging out with people. Like I couldn't connect the dots on what it was I was missing from my life. But after hearing that, I know I'm not alone in that. So now what music is giving me, it went from wanting to express myself to now expressing myself, but wanting to connect with other people. And I feel like that's the most important thing that we can do as musicians, because music, universal language. You can go to a club in Japan and you can play Jay Dilla, and people are going to move the same way they would move here. You can go to a club in Germany and play Busta Rhymes, Break Your Neck. They're going to get hyped the same way we get hyped. So it's like there's no boundaries to any of this. So now I'm just trying to inspire people with what I do, because the music that I listened to or I grew up listening to was people that were inspiring me. Like opening line in One for Simo is a generation inspired by Pharrell saying you can do it too. And that whole thing, like listening to Pharrell's first album and being like, yo, Pharrell's so cool, man. He's, you know, he's doing this. He's like out in Japan. He's doing all these things that I want to grow up and do. Like I want to own BBC. Like I want to go to Bape. I want to do all these things. And, you know, years later, I find myself in Bape in Harajuku wearing BBC. And I'm like,
this is it.
Damn, like, you know, the thing that Pharrell talked about, I did, and now I understand him a little bit more. I get why he enjoys this culture. I get why he enjoys the subtle flexes that he does do. And on the other side, it's like I want people to have that same experience too. So I rap about it, hoping that you'll get up and you'll do it. And I've actually had people say, yo, man, like I listened to your projects, whatever. I seen your pictures you posted from Japan. I bought my plane ticket and I'm going next year. And it's like, that's crazy. And he was like, you gave me that extra push because seeing how you can do it, like I believe that I can do the same thing. Like there's no reason why I can't do it. So yeah, that's where I'm at now with music, is just trying to inspire people and give them a piece of me that either they can agree with or disagree with. Because it's not really, I feel like as artists, it's not our job to tell a listener how to feel. We can only give them the feelings we have, and then they can either agree or disagree with our narrative. Regardless of whether you agree or disagree, I'm still doing my job. If you feel nothing, then I'm not doing my job.
Got it. That's awesome. And yeah, I can definitely say it was inspirational for me to sit down and break down your tracks and kind of explore what you were saying and doing. Anything you got to plug? Any shows coming up? Any I mean, I know, is the Milk Tea Chronicles, is there a part 3 coming at some point? Or
well, the
like
Milk Tea Chronicles the newest one will be Milk Tea Chronicles. It'll be the finale.
Okay.
And that one will be like sometime next year. I am working on a new book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I put out a book last year. It's a little small one, coffee table, book. And it has, photos from that I took, in Japan and stuff like that. So I'm working on a new one of these. It's going to be probably like the size of this one here. Shout out to Action Bronson though.
So it's going to be a bigger one? Yeah,
it's going to be one like this size.
Nice.
So it'll be this size. So I'm working on that right now. I'm working on a beat tape as well to go along with it. That's about it, man. I'm rocking this shirt, Dexter Fizz. This is actually from his album. He just dropped an album last month called I Died Here with a Japanese producer by the name of Bugseed, who's like legendary underground and stuff like that. So shout out to them. That's about it, man. Just working on the book, working on the beat tape. Might get some new raps from me here and there. I'm not really too pressured to do anything as far as vocally right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.